I still remember the exact moment when ConnectSync hit 200 million in revenue. The champagne was flowing at Technova headquarters, everyone patting my back, raising toasts to our unprecedented success. I smiled through it all, unaware that in less than 24 hours, I would be escorted out of the building by security guards, while clutching a cardboard box of personal belongings. They thought taking my creation away would silence me forever. They never knew about the kill switch buried deep in the code, waiting for the day I might need it. Before I tell you how I went from tech superstar to unemployed in 24 hours, and how I made them regret every second of it, let me know where you are watching from and hit that subscribe button if you want more stories about corporate justice. I never expected to become the tech industry's cautionary tale. Growing up in a middle-class neighborhood in Minneapolis, I was just Alan Webster, the quiet kid who built computers from scrapped parts and coded until sunrise. My parents worked extra shifts to help me through college, where I juggled 3 part-time jobs while earning my computer science degree. When I landed an entry-level position at Technova, it felt like the beginning of something great. The company was mid-sized but ambitious, with about 200 employees and a reputation for innovative communication tools. I started as a junior developer, working diligently on whatever projects came my way. Despite consistently exceeding expectations, promotions seemed to elude me. My ideas were often acknowledged with polite nods, then promptly forgotten. The concept for ConnectSync came to me during a frustrating conference call where our team was using 5 different platforms to share documents, communicate, and track project milestones. I thought, what if one platform could seamlessly integrate all these functions with intelligent workflow automation? That night I sketched the architecture for a revolutionary communication platform that would adapt to how teams actually worked rather than forcing them into rigid systems. The next morning, brimming with excitement, I requested a meeting with Marcus Donovan, our Vice President of Product Development. Marcus was known for his designer suits, perfect hair, and taking credit for other people's innovations. He listened to my pitch with a practiced smile before dismissing it. "Too ambitious, Alan. Not aligned with our current strategy," he said, barely looking up from his phone. I refined the concept and tried again 3 months later. Same result. Over the next year, I approached different executives with increasingly detailed plans. Each time I was told it was too risky, too expensive, or simply not a priority. Marcus was particularly condescending, once telling me, "Maybe stick to what you know best, fixing bugs in other people's code." That comment lit a fire in me. I began developing a prototype during nights and weekends, carefully ensuring I never used company resources or worked on it during official hours. 6 months of sleep deprivation later, I had a working demo that showcased the core functionality. My breakthrough came when I met Sarah Jenkins, our new marketing director. Unlike others in management, Sarah actually listened. When I showed her the prototype, her eyes widened. "Alan, this could change everything," she said. "You need to show this to Richard directly." Richard Fleming was our CEO, known for being brilliant, but intimidating. With Sarah's encouragement, I secured a 15-minute slot at the end of his packed day. Those 15 minutes turned into 2 hours, as Richard peppered me with questions, critiqued features, and ultimately saw the potential that others had missed. "This could position us against the major players," he concluded. "I will give you a small team and 3 months to develop a minimum viable product. If it shows promise, we will discuss next steps." I was assigned 2 team members, Jason Park, a talented back-end developer, who became my right hand, and Mei Chen, a UX designer with an uncanny ability to make complex features intuitive. We were given a modest budget and a tight deadline. What we lacked in resources we made up for with passion. For the next 18 months, my life became ConnectSync. I worked regular hours on my assigned tasks, then nights and weekends on my creation. My apartment transformed into a secondary office, walls covered with flowcharts and user journeys. Social life, dating, even basic self-care took a back seat. When I occasionally caught my reflection, I barely recognized the pale, exhausted face staring back. The beta launch was nerve-wracking. We released ConnectSync to 50 selected companies with minimal fanfare. The response exceeded our wildest expectations. Users were not just adopting the platform, they were evangelizing it to others. Support tickets came in not with complaints, but with excited feature requests. Word spread through tech circles like wildfire. Within 3 months, we had reached 1 million users with almost no marketing budget. Enterprise clients began contacting us, eager to implement ConnectSync across their operations. Each new client brought in hundreds of thousands in revenue, sometimes millions for the largest corporations. The platform scaled beautifully. thanks to the architecture I had meticulously designed. As ConnectSync grew, so did my visibility within the company. Richard began inviting me to executive meetings. Industry publications wanted interviews. At technology conferences, people actually recognized me. Meanwhile, Marcus suddenly became my biggest supporter, frequently dropping by my desk to ask about our project and offering unsolicited advice. "I always knew you had potential, Alan," he would say, arm around my shoulders when executives were nearby. "I am glad I gave you the chance to prove yourself." I said nothing, remembering clearly his earlier dismissals. My team grew from 3 to 30, then to over 100. I was promoted to Director of Product Innovation, though I noticed my compensation increase was disproportionately small compared to the value I had created. Then came the night ConnectSync hit $200 million in annual recurring revenue. Teknova rented out an exclusive rooftop venue complete with ice sculptures and personalized cocktails. Richard gave a speech praising the remarkable team effort that made ConnectSync possible, mentioning my name only briefly among a dozen others. Marcus stood prominently beside him, nodding and accepting congratulations as though he had been the driving force all along. I felt a twinge of unease despite the celebration. Something about Richard and Marcus exchanging knowing glances throughout the evening left me feeling vulnerable. Still, nothing could have prepared me for what came next. I arrived at work the following morning to find my access card deactivated. The security guard made an awkward call upstairs, then directed me to wait in the lobby. After 30 humiliating minutes, Patricia from Human Resources appeared with a tight smile. "Alan, would you come with me, please? Richard and Marcus would like to speak with you." The conference room felt unusually cold. Richard sat at the head of the table, Marcus beside him with a folder neatly positioned before him. Patricia took the seat nearest the door. Alan, Richard began without preamble. "It has come to our attention that you developed ConnectSync using company time and resources in direct violation of your employment agreement." The accusation hit me like a physical blow. That is absolutely not true. I was extremely careful to only work on early development during personal time. Marcus slid the folder toward me. "We have evidence suggesting otherwise. Login records showing you accessing development servers after hours. Commits to the repository during workdays. Emails to team members about features during times you were assigned to other projects." Each piece of evidence was twisted to appear incriminating when there were perfectly legitimate explanations. The after-hours logins were for my assigned projects. The repository commits were to officially sanctioned branches. The emails were about approved features, not my initial development work. "This is all being taken out of context," I protested. "Check my assigned tickets against these timestamps." Richard raised his hand to silence me. "The decision has been made, Alan. Teknova will be moving in a new direction with ConnectSync. We are terminating your employment effective immediately." Patricia slid termination papers across the table, along with a severance agreement, offering 2 months of salary in exchange for waiving all rights to ConnectSync and signing an extensive non-compete agreement. Then came the final twist of the knife. Richard nodded to Marcus, who straightened in his chair. To ensure continuity, Richard continued. "Marcus will be stepping in as our new Chief Innovation Officer, directly overseeing the ConnectSync division." Marcus had the audacity to look sympathetic. "I want to thank you for your contributions, Alan. I will make sure your work is built upon appropriately." The security escort out of the building was the ultimate humiliation. Former colleagues averted their eyes as I carried my personal belongings past their desks. Only Jason dared to give me a supportive nod, which I later learned cost him a reprimand. That evening, Sarah called me. Her voice trembled as she explained she had also been terminated for performance issues after defending me in a management meeting. The injustice of it broke something in me. Sarah had risked everything to support my vision, and now her career was collateral damage in their scheme. The following weeks were the darkest of my life. I fell into a depression, barely leaving my apartment. The non-compete agreement prevented me from finding comparable work in my field. My savings dwindled alarmingly fast, as rent in the tech hub city was not designed for the unemployed. Meanwhile, media coverage praised Marcus as the visionary behind ConnectSync. In industry interviews, Richard referred to me as one programmer on a large team who had contributed some early code. The revisionist history was staggering. Jason maintained cautious contact, sharing that chaos had erupted behind the scenes. The ConnectSync team struggled without my expertise, with Marcus making arbitrary decisions that created technical debt and user experience issues. Nevertheless, Teknova stock soared after announcing ConnectSync 2.0, promising features that the team knew were technically unfeasible on their timeline. As my financial situation grew dire, I remembered something I had almost forgotten. During early development, I had built a sophisticated kill switch into ConnectSync's architecture. It was a standard practice during development, a way to instantly roll back changes or shut down features that might be causing issues. According to proper protocol, such mechanisms should be removed before production. I had left mine in place buried under layers of security accessible only to someone who knew exactly where to look and how to activate it. I struggled with the ethical implications of using it. Would I be destroying something valuable that helped millions of users just to exact revenge? I spent days researching potential legal consequences, careful to use public computers and VPNs to avoid any trace. When Sarah called to meet at a quiet bar across town, I was surprised. She looked different, more determined than defeated. "They are selling ConnectSync," she revealed, sliding her phone across the table to show me an internal email she had received from a former colleague. "Technova is in talks with Global Tech for a $3 billion acquisition. My creation was worth billions, yet I had been discarded with 2 months' salary." But worse was what Sarah showed me next: backdated documents, with Marcus claiming original ownership of key ConnectSync concepts which her marketing friend had been asked to incorporate into presentation materials for the acquisition. "They are not just stealing your job, Alan. They are stealing your legacy," she said. That night, I made my decision. Justice needed to be served, regardless of personal cost. The system had failed me, so I would become my own justice system. The kill switch I had built into ConnectSync was not a simple off button. It was a sophisticated 3-tier system, requiring specific activation sequences, designed to be undetectable until triggered. Even the most thorough code review would miss it, as it was disguised as standard error handling and routine maintenance functions. I began cautiously creating small, plausibly deniable glitches in the system. During Marcus's presentation to potential buyers, ConnectSync experienced unexplained slowdowns. Documents failed to sync properly. Video calls dropped intermittently. Nothing catastrophic, just enough to raise questions about the platform's reliability. Tech blogs began reporting on the unexplained technical issues plaguing ConnectSync. Technova's public relations team dismissed them as growing pains due to rapid scaling. Internally, according to Jason's cryptic text messages, they were panicking. Engineers were working overtime, trying to identify problems that seemed to vanish when investigated directly. They brought in 3 different consulting firms, Jason texted. "No one can figure it out. Marcus is throwing daily tantrums." I monitored the company's responses through industry contacts and social media. Marcus gave interviews confidently, stating that all issues were resolved, even as new ones emerged. The stock price held steady, buoyed by acquisition rumors, but customer complaints were mounting. For the second phase, I targeted the executive dashboard specifically. This was the interface that Richard Marcus and other executives used to monitor revenue, user growth, and other key metrics. I subtly corrupted the data flow, causing increasingly inaccurate projections, while keeping the raw data intact to avoid permanent damage. The effects were both immediate and invisible to the public. Based on falsely optimistic projections, Technova made several disastrous business decisions. They overexpanded their sales team, committed to expensive office space in 3 new cities, and promised investors growth figures that were becoming impossible to achieve. Meanwhile, I anonymously tipped off a respected tech journalist about potential instability issues with ConnectSync. The resulting investigative article raised serious questions about Technova's technical competence and the platform's long-term viability. For the first time, their stock price wobbled, dropping 8% before partially recovering. Technova brought in a specialized cybersecurity firm to audit the entire system. I watched through Jason's updates as they searched fruitlessly for external attacks, never considering that the threat had been built in from the beginning. The development team was working 100-hour weeks under immense pressure, with Marcus threatening terminations if the problems were not resolved. The potential acquisition showed signs of trouble. Global Tech representatives requested additional technical due diligence and extended the evaluation period. Richard grew increasingly desperate, blaming everyone but the actual leadership for the mounting issues. With Sarah's help, I meticulously documented the intellectual property theft, gathering statements from original team members and time-stamped evidence of my contributions. We prepared a comprehensive file that would be undeniable if ever needed in legal proceedings. The moment for the final strike came during Technova's quarterly earnings call. Investors, analysts, and technology reporters were all listening, as Marcus confidently declared, ConnectSync has become the industry standard for enterprise communication because of its flawless reliability and continuous innovation under my leadership. At that exact moment, from a nondescript coffee shop using a secure connection, I activated the master kill switch. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Across the globe, ConnectSync servers displayed the same message. System unavailable. Maintenance in progress. Millions of users at tens of thousands of companies suddenly lost access to their primary communication platform. Twitter exploded with the hashtag #ConnectSyncDown. News sites interrupted regular coverage to report on the massive outage affecting major corporations worldwide. Technova's stock plummeted 30% within hours. Trading eventually halted to prevent further freefall. My phone began ringing almost immediately. First Richard, then Marcus, then increasingly desperate calls from the technical support team. I let them all go to voicemail, listening with grim satisfaction to their mounting panic. At precisely midnight, I sent an email to Richard, Marcus, and the entire board of directors. Attached were documents proving my role as ConnectSync's creator, evidence of their fraudulent claims, and the targeted discrimination against me and Sarah. The message was simple. These documents would be sent to the SEC, the media, and Global Tech, unless my conditions were met within 24 hours. Those conditions included public acknowledgement of my role, fair compensation for my intellectual property, and Marcus's removal from any position related to ConnectSync. The current system issues can be resolved, I concluded, but only by the person who created them. The emergency board meeting lasted through the night. By morning, Richard's assistant was calling to schedule a resolution discussion at a neutral location. Their initial resistance crumbled, as enterprise clients began publicly announcing they were exploring alternative platforms, and Global Tech representatives abruptly canceled all acquisition meetings. The negotiation took place at my attorney's office. I arrived to find Richard, 2 board members, and their legal team looking sleep-deprived and defeated. The agreement we eventually signed included everything I had demanded, plus additional protections I had not even thought to request. Technova issued a press release acknowledging me as ConnectSync's primary creator and characterizing my departure as a misunderstanding about ownership and contribution. I was brought back as a highly paid consultant to resolve technical issues with full credit for my creation and substantial equity compensation that reflected the actual value I had generated. Marcus was quietly demoted to an advisory role with no direct reports, eventually resigning 3 months later to pursue other opportunities. No company in the industry would touch him, after word spread about what had really happened. I systematically restored ConnectSync's functionality, permanently removing the kill switch and other backdoors. The platform stabilized, and clients gradually returned, though Technova's reputation had suffered significant damage. What surprised me most was the public support. The tech community rallied around my story, celebrating it as a rare win for the actual creators against corporate appropriation. Several prominent venture capitalists reached out, offering funding for whatever I wanted to build next. Sarah was reinstated with a promotion and back pay, but she chose to join me when I started my own company 6 months later. Jason and 7 other original team members followed, forming the core of what would become Authentic Systems, built on principles of transparency and proper attribution. The settlement provided more than enough capital to fund our startup properly. We developed tools specifically designed to help other developers protect their work and receive fair compensation for their contributions. Our flagship product was an open-source framework that ensured creators maintained verifiable proof of authorship, regardless of corporate claims. 1 year after the ConnectSync meltdown, Technova was still struggling to rebuild trust, while Authentic Systems had secured major clients and a valuation approaching $1 billion. In an ironic twist, we eventually partnered with Global Tech, directly bypassing Technova entirely. I learned powerful lessons about corporate ethics, self-protection, and the importance of building safeguards into everything you create. The experience transformed me from a naive developer into a business leader committed to changing industry practices. The kill switch I had built was technically wrong but morally justified. I do not regret using it, but I have dedicated my career to creating systems where such measures would never be necessary. Every employee at Authentic Systems receives proper credit and compensation for their innovations. Our company structure ensures no single executive can appropriate others' work. The revolution I inadvertently started has spread throughout the industry. Several states have passed developer rights legislation, inspired by my case. Major tech companies have reformed their IP policies to better protect individual contributors. Sometimes the system must be broken before it can be fixed properly. Have you ever created something valuable only to have someone else take credit for it? Share your experience in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story of justice in the tech world, make sure to hit that subscribe button and like this video. Do not forget to share with friends who might be creating the next billion-dollar idea and need to protect themselves. Thanks for listening to my journey from betrayed creator to empowered founder. Remember, in technology and in life, always build in your own protection, because no one else will do it for you.